Phase in secondary lockdown restrictions on a rolling basis, starting with major metropolitan areas first and expanding outward. Expected by November 2020. Next one. Rush the acquisition of or construction of isolation facilities across every province and territory. Expected by December 2020. These are concentration camps they're talking about. Daily new cases of COVID-19 will surge beyond capacity of testing. Interesting that they already know that they're going to surge, right? Why? Because they know that if there is such a virus out there, assuming that there's a real virus out there, the testing is already it's already predetermined. They're testing, they're attenuating, they're basically amplifying the RT-PCR test to the point that every human being will test positive. That's what their goal is. All right, so the new daily new cases of COVID will surge beyond capacity of testing, including increases in COVID-related deaths following the same growth curves, expected by end of November 2020. Complete and total secondary lockdown, much stricter than the first and second rolling phase restrictions, expected by end of December 2020, early January 2021. Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the Universal Basic Income Program, expected by Q1 2021. Projected COVID-19 mutation and or co-infection with secondary virus referred to as COVID-21, leading to a third wave with much higher mortality rate and higher rate of infection, expected by February 2021. Daily new cases of COVID-21 hospitalizations and COVID-19 and COVID-21 related deaths will exceed medical facility capacities expected by Q1, Q2 of 2021. Enhanced lockdown restrictions referred to as third lockdown will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity, expected by Q2 2021. Guys, understand that. That means that if you're in British Columbia, you can't go to Quebec. All right? This is what they're talking about. And if you're in one city and you're trying to go into another city in the same province, they're not going to allow you to do that. This is in Canada. Of course, they're going to try to roll this out, and I'll get to that point here in a second. All right. Transitioning of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program, expected mid-Q2 2021. Projected supply chain breakdowns in inventory storage, large economic instability, all expected late Q2 2021. Deployment of military personnel into major metropolitan areas as well as all major roadways to establish travel checkpoints, restrict travel and movement, provide logistical support to the area, expected by Q3 2021. Along with that provided roadmap, the Strategic Planning Committee was asked to design an effective way of transitioning Canadians to meet an unprecedented economic endeavor, one that would change the face of Canada and forever alter the lives of Canadians. All right, guys, this is where it gets really disturbing, as if it's not already disturbing. What we are told was that in order to offset what was essentially an economic collapse on an international scale, that the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief. So people are getting excited about that. That sounds good, but wait. This is how it works. The federal government will offer to eliminate all personal debts, all mortgages, all loans, all credit cards, etc., which all funding will be provided to Canada by the IMF under what will become known as the World Debt Reset Program. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. The individual would also have to agree to partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, which will provide the individual with unrestricted travel and unrestricted living even under a full lockdown. So if you agree, you can go do anything you're doing as long as you partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, regardless of the lockdown. Magically, you take this vaccine and boom, guess what? You don't have to social distance. You don't have to wear a mask anymore because you have already gotten your vaccines. All right. So this is unrestricted living even under a full lockdown through the use of a photo identification referred to as Canada's Health Pass. Committee members asked who would become the owner of the forfeited property and assets in that scenario, and what would happen to lenders or financial institutions. We were simply told the World Debt Reset Program will handle all of the details. So when they were asked what happens to the property and what happens to the banks, don't worry about it, we're going to take care of it. That's what they were told. All right. And now it gets really, really interesting. Wow. Committee members asked who would become, I read that. Several committee members also questioned what would happen to individuals if they refused to participate in the World Debt Reset Program or the Health Pass or the vaccination schedule. The answer we got was very troubling. Essentially, we were told it was our duty to make sure we come up with a plan, meaning the Liberal Party was told that it was their duty to come up with a plan to ensure that would never happen. We were told it was in the individual's best interest to participate. When several committee members pushed relentlessly to get an answer, we were told that those who refused would first live under the lockdown restrictions indefinitely, and that over a short period of time, as more Canadians transitioned into the debt forgiveness program, the ones who refused to participate would be deemed a public safety risk and would be relocated into isolation facilities. Once in those facilities, they would be given two options: participate in the debt forgiveness program and be released, or stay indefinitely in the isolation facility under the classification of a serious public health risk and have all your assets seized. As you can imagine, after hearing all of this, it turned into quite the heated discussion and escalated beyond anything I've ever witnessed before. In the end, it was implied by the PMO that the whole agenda will move forward no matter who agrees with it or not. That it won't just be Canada, but in fact, all nations will have similar roadmaps and agendas. That we need to take advantage of the situations before us to promote change on a grander scale for the betterment of everyone. The members who were opposed and ones who brought up key issues that would arise from such a thing were completely ignored. Our opinions and concerns were ignored. We were simply told to just do it. All I know is that I don't like it, and I think it's going to place Canadians into a dark future. So guys, now you know why I was hesitating to release this information, but now you also understand why it's so critical. Now, I want you guys to download these videos, this video in particular, download it. Why am I saying that? Because you know that in the next 2 or 3 days, you remember my first video when I got really mad when Next News Network ended up interviewing me. You remember what happened, right? 9.1 million views in 6 days, and they took everything down. So I anticipate that this could be very realistically the last time that you will be able to see me on Instagram or on Facebook or on YouTube. I have no idea. Maybe I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised. But this is the reason that you need to do 3 things. 1, you need to download this video and make sure that you have it on your smart device, because they can't control that. Get it out to your friends and family. Let other people know. 2, become a relay. Let others know about this information. All right? You can share the video from your phone to phone, WhatsApp, whatever. Share it. Get it out there. And 3, make sure you subscribe down here, okay? Boom, right there. Because that's the only way that I can communicate with you guys. And please, if you get if you decide to subscribe, that's totally free. You don't have to pay anything for it. You can get access to the to the head map and all that stuff, and watch the webinars and stuff. But there is a paid version for the members, the type of members that we have this type of communication with. That is the IADFW. So just make sure that you understand there's 2 different things. But regardless, in order to maintain communication, please subscribe there, and then on the dashboard, which you have total free access to 100% for life, our plan is to have a way that there's a little bell underneath your name, and when that bell lights up, that means it's a message, and that way we don't have to worry about whether or not you got the email or if it's censored, because all you have to do is you log in. You may get an alert on your email saying that there was a message posted, and that's probably the only thing it's going to say, but then you can log in and actually see the message, all right? So that's what our goal is, to be able to facilitate communication. Now, I've read all this stuff, and I want everyone to vow right now that you are not going to be worried about this, because that's not what the reason that I read this, 1, and that's not why this information is coming into our power, into our awareness to scare us. Of course, that's what, if they thought that it was going to scare us, they would have probably put the information out. But they don't want this information out. Why? Because they're afraid that it's going to wake us up. So this is not something to be fearful of. This is something to now know that you know clearly who you're dealing with. You know right in front of you what the opposition is playing at. You now understand that no matter what happens with elections and this and that, this is the New World Order agenda. So make sure you're prepared. Make sure you have just enough food and water that if something locks down, that you've got enough for a couple of weeks. Okay, this is an important thing. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do this today or tomorrow, but I would do it sooner rather than later. And the other thing, guys, make sure you are armed. Make sure that if you live in a free country, that in order to maintain your freedom, that you do what those forefathers had orchestrated from the get-go, which was the freedom to bear arms. So if you're Canadian, you're American, whether or not you agree with me or not, look, I hope I'm totally wrong. But you know what? I would rather be totally wrong and have a locked and loaded weapon next to me to take care of my family and defend myself, rather than being, oh, I've got my head in the sand and I'm going to say nothing's going to happen and I'm not going to worry about getting a gun or anything to protect myself. And when the bastards come in trying to railroad me, then what am I going to do? Throw spitwads at them? All right, so just be aware that this is something that everyone